And we're live.
And we're live.
A great Friday live stream. Good times.
Good times, always good times.
So I was going to basically not do a stream today because I figured how many people are going to be coming out. So I'm going to be really curious to see how many people actually show up. Oh, we got one.
Not me.
Not
It's not me.
It's not
always
you.
For once.
So we got one. I'm going to be curious to see how many people actually stop in for the Good Friday stream. I do notice everything else seems to be going as normal. Depends on where you are in the world as to who actually acknowledges Good Friday. Like in Quebec, I'm on the Quebec side of the Ontario-Quebec border in Ottawa, and everything's open. Like everything's still open. They close for the Monday. So I guess
That's weird. With the sheer amount of churches in Gatineau alone, you would expect.
right? Well, no, they look at the. I mean, I've always found it weird that we get the Friday off and not the
Instead
Monday.
of the Monday. Yeah.
The Monday seems like it would make more sense, doesn't it?
Honestly, I think Good Friday, as far as like a statutory holiday, is years are numbered. I think as our cultures become increasingly less, attached to a religion.
Yeah.
I feel like holidays like that. Christmas is different. I feel like Christmas is just kind of a nice day at the end of the year for everybody to have off, kind of thing. But like, there's more of a family connection. It seems
Well, it's
these
also
days
Santa Claus, man. Like,
that too.
yeah.
But like, I think with Good Friday, it's like it literally just has religious significance. There's no other reason for Good Friday.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you're not religious, it doesn't impact you other than the day off.
Yeah, exactly. Other than it gives an excuse to drink on Thursdays instead of Fridays.
Oh, it's
actually, or both.
messed me up yesterday. I woke up this morning and felt I've been walking around like it's Saturday all day. So
Nice.
yeah. So for this week, I do have a couple comments that I wanted to go over that I found hilarious.
Okay.
As per usual. Did you watch the Neat Mike's Worker Bee video, Dylan? What do you think of the Neat Mike Worker Bee?
Looks like shit.
Yeah, what do you think of the sound though? Like when you really boil it down,
Looks like shit.
it is hard to stomach the size. It's bigger than my face. And I have a big face. Like
I
my
got a big head.
face is huge.
No, I don't. I don't know. It's not okay. It's not all right. But again, it looks like shit.
For $99, I liked it. I thought it was a great look.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. For 99, yeah, or
Yeah.
100 pesos.
You got to expect that what you're going to get kind of does top out. When you spend $100 on something, I had one guy actually tell me that he replaced his U87 AIs with the Neat Mike's Worker Bee. That was one of the comments. For voiceover, he replaced his U87 AI, he had two of them apparently, with two Worker Bees. Let me find the comment.
Again, I'm gonna try real hard not to be a dick about this, but like, well, like whatever you do, you bud. Like it's your money. I don't care. But like at the same time, like, why? Like you already have like something that's very much considered industry standard, unless for some reason you had this very obscure voice type that really was massacred by the U87, of which is maybe 0.001% of people's voices.
Well, I know it could be. It could be. There. I don't know how many people does a U87 not sound good on.
Well, I mean, there are people that actually swear by and say the 414 works better on their voice than like a not a U87, but a U47, like a Telefunken.
I got to say
U47.
that C414 sounded damn good. It's going to be hard to beat that.
Yeah, 414 is pretty solid.
It's going to be really hard to beat that. I'm trying to find the comment.
Like, did he give a reason? Like, if he was, maybe his like
Here we
studio
go.
color is like yellow.
It was Passion Center. And he said, Worker Bee is amazing. Ended up buying two for voiceovers. Replaced my Neumann U87 at the studio. I said, wow, so you replaced a U87 AI with this? He said, just for voiceovers, not for singing. The quality is amazing. I got a second one to record electric guitars from the amp, which, by the way, is it also another great use for a U87. And I just left it at that. I just there was nothing I had that could respond to that. Like, there's no cool.
Yeah. Cool story, bro. Cool story, bro.
Well, it's not even just the cool story. It's just you replaced a U87 AI with a $100 worker bee.
That's weird. I mean, so I don't remember. Like, this may have been in your video, but I just may have glossed over it mentally. What was the noise floor like on it?
Very, very good. It was an incredibly good one. Excuse me. I just got back from a walk, and apparently I'm clearing out the lungs. Jared Rogers just stopping by to show some support. Keep it up, fellas. Cheers, Jared. Thanks, man. Happy Good Friday or with whatever you're doing. David Siller says, man, Dylan's reaction to that. Ken, yikes, Aiden started the worker bee revolution. This one's on you, bro. No, I did not. I like the sound of it. I think it looks dumb. I think it's one of the dumbest looking mics I've ever seen. I don't get it. And this is what I pointed out in the video, is I don't like gimmicks.
And again, it's not because it's $100. Like, I don't know if anyone has ever seen this before. I was very close to actually buying one of these. The U87 Rhodium edition. Look that shit up. I think that looks dumb. It's a U87. Everything about it's U87, but the only difference is it's made, instead of the casing being made of, I think, nickel, which is the normal one, it's made of rhodium. So it's basically a mirror.
Oh, that is pretty.
It is, but at the same time, I've picked one up. Yeah. And you get fingerprints on it.
No, you would like touch it.
Like, in fact, they actually sell it with, and like I got to see the case and look over everything that was there, and it's obviously got like a little card from the director of Sennheiser, like, hey, here's the Neumann, blah blah blah. But they actually give you handling gloves.
Well, yeah, you need the white ones. Those white handling
they got
gloves?
these black velvet ones.
Oh,
and then you can grab that, and that's Yeah, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of funny.
The Audio Asylum says replace the U87 with a $100 mic. What a maroon. Yes, I would say he's a huge maroon. I don't understand why. Like, I get the reason why you can find a gem with a $100 mic. The AKG P120 is one of those. It's a gem. It's great. You can use it in a lot of things. But if somebody said, hey, dude, here's a C414 or here's a U87, which one do you want? I'm probably going to go with the U87 or the C414. No?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, yeah, again, if you're looking at bang for buck, like P120, Worker B, in that price range, they're great. But if you've already got something that's been proven time and time and again to be tiers better, like up the hierarchy of useful things to have in the studio, why would you bother? Like, you already had two of them. He not only replaced one of them, but replaced two of them with two Worker Bees.
Well, but just for voiceover, Dylan. Voiceover doesn't require depth and...
Man, I use an RE20 to record voiceover, and it's fine. Like, piss off.
It's just so much better for voiceover. The texture of my voice is just phenomenal. I absolutely love the graininess.
Like, fuck off.
Well, no, for voiceover, for some really high-end stuff, you do use a nice mic. You use something that captures the depth of your voice.
So, nice mic. What's the 5 mics that come to your head when you think of a nice mic?
Well, no, I'm not thinking nice. I'm thinking nice for you, for your voice. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to use a one that captures the...
Again, so that's the one caveat is maybe this dude, to give him some credit, maybe he had a really weird voice.
Yeah, no, I look at Podcastage's voice, and, like, there's mics that really work on him that I think sound like garbage on my voice. Just, we are completely different in voice.
Yeah, well, I find it's, like, nasaliness for voiceover can kill a lot of mics. Like
absolutely.
The U87 AI actually has a tiny little bit of a bump at like 1K. So if you've got a really kind of a kind of sounding voice, it's just gonna accentuate that.
It's
problem.
Funny because that's one of his favorite voices or favorite mics is the U87 too. Ken says, "Shoot, I use a ZDM1 to record goofy videos in my truck." You know what? It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not gonna knock cheap mics. The Worker Bee, if you own one, you like one, that's great. If you have the choice between a U87 AI and a Worker Bee, and you're choosing the Worker Bee, I don't know. It seems like unless it's an extreme version of why it doesn't sound great on your voice, it is a bit of a ridiculous.
It's weird. I would have a real hard time. Like, and presumably he sold the U87s.
I'm guessing.
Because, like, it's like, oh, I just threw them out. Like, I'm going to slap you. Like,
There are people that do.
Like
that.
I just gave them away. Like I just didn't have a use for them. I just gave them away.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're not a radio station. Don't give shit away.
Audio Asylum, the Shure SM7B is what I use for VOs. Yeah, that's a great VO. Like it,
Phenomenal mic. I don't use it for streams anymore, but it's a phenomenal mic.
I find it's not the best mic on my voice. I don't think it's. I don't mind it. Like it's good, but I don't think it's better than. I don't think it's better than C414.
No. Yeah. Well, again, also look at like as much people are like the SM7 is legendary. It's $500.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's legendary because everyone has one. It's not legendary because, like, it does. It sounds fantastic. I have no complaints using the SM7B.
I mean, the SM7B has been used on some legendary recordings. I mean, it was used. Michael Jackson's Thriller album vocals were tracked on an SM7B.
There was a lot of recent pop albums that used it as well, eh?
Yep. Yeah. And I think that big part of that is because, you know, the pop singers all see their favorite YouTubers probably using it. So they're like, oh, we want to use that mic. I, honest to God, would not be surprised if that was part of the reason for that. But
yeah.
It still is a good mic, though. I can't knock it. It's a good mic.
We're getting into an era where, with bedroom recordings, like Billie Eilish's first album, she used an AT4040, or was it an AT4040 or an AT2020 on her first album. So, I mean, when you're looking at it, a $200 mic. I think the AT4040 is 200 Canadian. It might be a little more expensive, but if you're cutting albums with that, I mean,
here's my problem though
really
with that.
matter.
I don't have a problem with Audio-Technica stuff. I like their mics. I like their value proposition is good.
Yeah.
As you know, you're not paying an arm and a leg, and the quality you get is actually pretty decent. That said, it's a condenser mic. Both the 2020 and the 4040 are condenser mics. You're in a bedroom, which is not designed for recording. Condenser mics are not your friend.
It was her buddy. I don't know their relationship, to be honest, but her buddy, let's call him, had his own studio in his bedroom. That can mean a lot of things.
Was it her brother, Phineas?
Was that her brother, Phineas?
Yeah, Phineas.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're kind of the tag team duo. Like they're like he's kind of the prod guy, and she's
So I'm like having a recording studio in your bedroom could mean a lot of things. It could mean like your setup when you were back living with your parents, which wasn't just a recording studio in a bedroom. It was a fantastic studio. Or it could mean you have a Focusrite 2i2 with a single mic plugged in.
Well, again, I say that in a bedroom acoustic, your condenser mics are not your friend, not because of equipment so much, because again, as we've proven, lots of interfaces that are reasonably priced can work for that. But acoustics in bedrooms are horrible.
Yeah,
bedrooms are not designed to be
perfectly square rooms.
Yeah, big boxes with either carpeting or, you know, heaven forbid, click vinyl flooring. Like, right now I'm on a RE20, and if I'm really loud and the compressor really grabs me hard, that's gonna get sampled somewhere. I know that is.
Grabs me hard. I might sample it now. Damn, put that to music.
There goes a reel. A reel's
Grab
going
me
out there
hard.
tomorrow. But no. So in here, I'm on an RE20. I record VO, and yeah, if I'm listening to it with headphones and there's nothing around it, like no music or anything, I'd be like, okay, I can hear some reflections. But in the context of especially a music track or even a commercial, a VO or something with music and stuff, it's not really going to be pick up. Like, you're not going to pick it up at all. I mean, here, not
fair.
only on the SM7, same thing, because they're dynamic mics. These mics are super, super good at rejecting. They're really, you know, they're like a gal from Toronto. They're just on top of the rejection capability.
A little bitter today there, Dylan.
No, but so if you're going to record in a bedroom, as much as dynamic mics are not good for detail, they're kind of known that you can use that to your advantage. You can use the fact that it's not good for. If you're using something like a U87, you better make damn sure that your room has some treatment in it, because you're going to hear all that.
Yeah, no, anything condenser.
Any condenser mic. Yeah.
I actually just got down to using my very, very first, well, not using, but reviewing my very, very first supercardioid. I ran around with a blanket on my back, screaming supercardioid for the next video. I don't know what got into me. Anyways, the AKG D5 supercardioid. And this is the fascinating thing I have. This thing was marketed. Now, this is all going to be in the video. It's marketed as a better stage mic because it's supercardioid. But one of the things supercardioids have in common is a rear pickup. They all pick up from the rear.
Just slightly, yeah.
Well, this one's actually got a pretty decent nose on it. It looks like Squidward.
Yeah, I know. There's a little bubble hanging off the back. But compared to the front, like it's at least got like 50%.
Yeah, but if you point this thing at a stage monitor, that's going to be worse than an SM58, no?
Yeah. Well, so I would say supercardioid is useful in live applications like, for example, miking a snare drum. And I say that because the back of the snare drum mic isn't pointed at a speaker, and you still want maximum rejection because that hi-hat's a bitch. That hi-hat's a bitch. So there are examples. I wouldn't use supercardioid for vocals live because of the reasons previously cited, where your vocal mic is generally pointed at a monitor, as it should be. So this is not good. I would use a regular cardioid, or I don't know, maybe a hypercardioid in some weird examples where I might, hypercardioid have a wider sort of angle in the front and a smaller bubble on the back. That said, you should pick up the Beta 58A because that is a hypercardioid.
I saw they're close to $300. I had to pick up a...
Really? Wow, they used to be like 180.
Yeah, no, I looked up. I think they were $240 plus tax. So I'm gonna wait for a bit on that one. Just gonna wait till that comes down. But I had to pick up a Scarlett Studio Pack. That's gonna be coming up soon. It's got the Scarlett branded microphone and Scarlett branded headphones. I don't know. I just somebody asked for it, and I'm like, you know what? I should give it a shot. The Audio Asylum wants to know, what compressor are you using with the RE20? And then there's another follow-up question, so go for that. RE20, what are you using?
Right now, at this exact moment, it is going into a DBX 166XL, which can be a very aggressive compressor. I personally, you know what? The one thing... There are some DBX products that are good. I'm not going to knock them as a company. They have a wide range of stuff from consumer grade to like high-end, very good, super reliable gear. That's the one thing I can say about DBX stuff is it is reliable. Like if you want something that you can have, like they're so reliable, they don't have on-off switches. They're literally meant to run on 100% of the time. And which is, I mean, this particular processor that I'm running in was used in a radio station nonstop for 15 years.
Oh.
On an on-air processor.
So those caps are all good. Like the caps are like high-end caps. Oh, you recapped it. Okay.
Yeah. Not the whole thing, but specifically in the compression module. I went through and I had some 63 volt caps lying around that worked well.
Nice.
The one thing I hate about this, this 166XL, for anyone that hasn't used it, it's got 3 modules. It's got a gate, it's got a compressor, it's got a limiter. The limiter is aggressive.
Okay.
I'm going to turn down the limiter right now. I'm going to bring down a threshold, and you're literally just going to hear distortion because the attack and release on the limiter are just that aggressive. It's literally distortion. It is useless. Now, so I would say useless, but on a bass or on a guitar, it sounds really cool. It actually sounds really cool. It's like a soft saturation, but on a voice... No.
So the Audio Asylum says DBX. Yes, that's what I'm using. Their DBX has a full-on lineup, eh?
Oh yeah, they're a huge. I mean, well, they've got tons of stuff to the point where all of their products are a number. They don't like the 166, the 283. Symmetrix when they were a thing they were pretty much the same way. The 528.
Symmetrix still, or Symmetrix or whatever you call it? Are they still going?
I don't know. I haven't seen any of their products in any stores recently. I know there's obviously their stuff is built like a tank. It floats around, they're still working after all these years. But
so they have the DBX 286A mic pre. I've heard a lot of things about the 286. I've never bought one. I've never felt the need to have inline compression.
I would say again, because of the price point of the 286, which is not crazy, getting into the world of analog processing and having something to just your first toy to play around with, it's a good
bunch of knobs.
Yeah, first bunch of knobs on a box. It's a good foray into that world because it gives you the chance to feel, okay, this is how a compressor behaves in real life, not just in a software package. Okay,
I got to go back. David, I'll get to yours in a second. Actually, I'm pretty sure Dylan could probably help you with that. Actually, I probably can help you with that. Vai Kearoda says, "Hello, do you have any SM58 equalize profile, so an EQ profile, for Equalizerapo, for example?" For EQ, I'm guessing. I want to use my SM58 for my streams. So it wants an EQ profile. These EQ profiles generally depend on your voice. There's not like just a generic profile for a voice. So
yeah, that's tough. I mean, I could say that there's certain areas, if I'm starting with a flat EQ with a new voice, or my voice on a new mic or in a new environment, there's certain things that I reach for immediately. One is controlling the low end, because on these mics, like if I bring up the EQ on the RE20, because the low end's been a little sculpted here, if I bring up the low end to what it's like coming out of the mic initially, it's like this.
yeah,
So a little aggressive.
got to roll a bit of that off.
Just a touch. That said, I don't like roll-offs. I don't like high-pass filters unless I'm dealing with like radio big voices. I don't like deleting that much information from. I like low shelves.
Drop 60.
I like low shelves above high-pass filters.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Well, I know, as you say though, drop some room tone off. Maybe 60 hertz, 40 hertz, somewhere around there, or even up to like, if depending on the voice, up to 120 hertz if you want.
Oh, that really takes a lot of oomph out of my voice.
It does. Again, in a radio context, like the profile that I use for my SM7, when I'm doing either commercial VR, or even when I used to use it for the stream, and it would going through live processing, it would be rolling off at, I think, 100.
Oh, wow. See,
But and like a super steep roll off too.
See, and that's something that I've never, like, I'm still learning how to EQ my own voice. I'm working, like, I don't consider myself a producer god of my own voice. I'm still learning and playing with it. But yeah, it's something that you just gotta kind of learn how to, some of the basics of where you're kind of like rolling stuff off, or not rolling stuff off, but you're dipping a little bit in a certain area to take some of the muddiness out.
Try not to get carried away. I will say I think the biggest mistake that everybody makes when they're learning how to EQ stuff and they're new to the idea of sculpting is they'll take a 20 band EQ and they'll use all 20 bands. And just because there are 20 bands there does not mean you need to use them.
Yeah.
I think a good rule of thumb, especially when you're getting to know it, is limit yourself to like 3 bands. That's it. And there's a lot, honestly, most issues, unless you got some weird comb filtering stuff that you need to do or something like that, most like just general sculpting, you can get done with 3 or 4 bands. That's, and in many cases, that's all you might need. In fact, old compressors used to have, look at your stereo. Your stereo's got a high shelf and a low shelf, and that's basically it.
Well, and it's also like I use a 5-band parametric equalizer.
Yep, 5's a good number,
and that it gives me everything I need.
I'm used to, like, I used back in the day when we could be in physical buildings.
Vikeroda says, I wanted some profile like the one you were used to make the SM58 look like the SM7B. There is a great video by, let me just find it here. Julian Kraus. Julian Kraus has a video that he actually shows you how to EQ the SM58 to sound exactly like an SM7B.
Or at least as close as you can.
Yeah, as close as you can. If you want to check out Julian Kraus's, he's a lot, like, dude knows his stuff, and he would be able to, thank you, Bangs. Yeah, dude knows his stuff when it comes to EQ. He'll be able to take you through that, no problem. If you want that, if you want to know how to take an SM58 to an SM7B, the changes aren't as huge as you might think. So, yeah.
No, I mean, the problem that you face when you're trying to adapt any mic to sound like another mic is, and Slate Digital actually nailed this with some of their emulation products. They account for this, but or at least as much as they can, is that the responsiveness of the different frequencies. So you look at a frequency response diagram of a microphone, which we all can see the frequency on one axis and the volume on the other. You can sort of see the curve of the mic. That's at a particular volume. If you bring the level of a signal down, or you bring certain frequencies up that complement or contrast other frequencies, the frequency response changes. So the problem with applying an EQ curve to try and change a mic to sound like another mic is at a certain angle, at a certain sound, it probably will sound pretty much bang on, and then you might get a little louder, or your voice might change to another octave or something,
Yeah.
and it jumps out of that range.
I mean, everything comes into, like, you've got the resonance of the body, the resonance of the actual body of the microphone.
Yeah, which on the SM7 is a huge deal.
Yes.
It's got a lot of space in that big old cavity there.
And that will change the whole sound profile of the microphone. Okay, so we're getting off from David's here. Let's go back just a little bit because we kind of got off track there. He said, my first DBX 286S developed a loud case buzz and a buzz in the signal. New one is fine. No response from their online inquiry address. That sounds like a bad ground somewhere.
So when we say case buzz, so that almost sounds like a transformer issue.
Could be transformer. Buzz in the signal would be a ground. Well, I guess the
Yes.
transformer would do the same thing, no?
Well, so transformers, and this is a very important point about the way that these pieces are designed, is usually if you open up these pieces, if they have a switching mode power supply, if they have a linear power supply, i.e. a giant transformer in the back, in other words, if they take an IEC cable in kind of normally, which is, cheap, but bad for a number of reasons. Usually there's a giant metal shield around the transformer that's designed to keep those magnetic fluctuations away from all the audio circuitry. It sounds like there may have been some kind of issue with how that particular DBX was shielded, or how the transformer was shielded away from the other components.
Yeah.
Or as Aiden pointed out, there's a ground issue.
Yeah, ground issues. If it's a consistent, the buzz never goes away. It doesn't fluctuate. If it's just a bzzz, usually that's just a ground.
A big thing.
somewhere.
I mean, hums are the biggest pain in the ass. Mainly because there's so many things that can cause it. One is if you have your audio equipment plugged into different circuits.
Yeah.
And the grounds are tied together. That's a problem. Don't do that. If you can avoid it. Anyway,
that was one of my problems when my desk was when I had the corner set. I had two separate power sources, and everything had to all be moved over to one. It was a pain in the butt.
Yeah. So I mean, there are ways to deal with that. One is if the cables that are the audio cables that are interconnecting the equipment from circuit 1 and the equipment from circuit 2. This is not advisable. This is not electrician advice, disclaimer, but take the cable and unsolder the shield, or the pin 1 if it's an XLR, or the sleeve on a TRS or TS cable. You unconnect that, the grounds won't be coupled between the two devices anymore, and you won't get any kind of a ground loop forming between them. That said, don't do that with your mic cables. You can get electrocuted. Bad news bears. But
this is why it's not an electrical. Like, he's not an electrician, folks.
For component interconnects, it's fine though.
Yeah.
And again, the ground usually only becomes a problem if the gear's wired improperly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Bangs just says ground lifts can be dangerous. Yes, they can.
Very
be.
dangerous.
You can also get some power conditioners.
Yes, power conditioners, which are the most expensive but most ideal solution, because power conditioners, usually good ones, like I've got 2 here, or 3. I've got a Furman, I've got a Monster, and then I've got a Middle Atlantic, which is probably the best one. And power conditioners do a number of things. Number one
surge.
thing, the surge protection. But power bars do that. That's not a huge deal.
Well,
but they do surge protection. They do RFI. Decoupling from your power line signal, which is just basically a giant low pass filter.
Can you provide the contact info for your preferred attorney?
Yeah. But no. So the important thing about power conditioners is they usually have They have discrete grounds. So each port on your power conditioner will have the grounds that are isolated from each other, which is important. Now, again, your power conditioner is plugging into one power input, like one mains anyway. So it's all coming from the same circuit. So, but that said, if you've got something in your rig that's got a really noisy power supply, like I'm trying to think of, like, for example, here I've got a KVM extender that it's, a digital piece. So it's constantly pulling and pushing different amounts of power for every single packet that it sends out, which is stupid. But so it is plugged into an isolated ground port on the power conditioner so that none of the audio gear can see that ridiculous ADD power fluctuations coming out of that thing.
So, and just to kind of hammer in a point that you had from a little while ago, yes, you can get surge protection from just a regular bar, but I've had several surge protectors. They work. They protect your computer.
They can be chintzy.
Yeah,
can
they
definitely be
just
chintzy.
either they just shut down themselves, where they're like, oh no, or they just I've had issues where they just don't quite do the job they need to do, and if you have a backup battery, backup battery with a surge protector and all that stuff on it, or a power conditioner. Never had an issue with that. Power goes out, power surges, anything, you get a beep, and that's it. That's all you get from it.
So in this case, I've got my main power conditioner, and then I've got a rack mount honker of a UPS plugged into that power conditioner. So if a ground fault or if there's an over voltage condition or something that trips the power conditioner, because it's got sensors for all that shit, the UPS will just kick in and save everything else.
So I'll get back to bangs in a second, but the Audio Asylum did ask this a bit back. Have a BBE 362 Sonic Maximizer. Your thoughts on it? I have no idea what the BBE 362 Sonic Maximizer is. Dylan is going to look it up for us. That could be one of 100 things. That could be a vibrator. It could be a... That actually sounds like something a vibrator would have.
Sonic Maximizer to me sounds like a limiter. That's generally maximizers, as they're known in the digital realm, are basically just very like they're limiters with a very specific interface design that's designed to make things as loud as possible. But ultimately, they're just limiters. BBE 362. I have seen one recently, one BBE piece of equipment, and it was kind of sexy as hell, so I'm kind of inclined to
so do you buy equipment based on aesthetics?
Well, when I say sexy as hell, I mean it sounded awesome and it had a bunch of features built into it. So let me look at the front of this bad boy. This is...
So while Dylan figures this out, sine wave UPS work well. I haven't really gotten into the different types of UPSs, because I mean,
get a sine wave UPS. They're expensive.
A lot of money into it.
Well, the one I'm using is $1,000, but
Yeah.
it's an insurance policy, so I don't have a problem with that.
And
However,
yeah.
if you're running, I mean, computer power supplies, especially good ones, aren't very fussy. You can run a generator feed straight into it, and they don't really care. Audio equipment or other digital pieces that are more expensive and a little more sensitive, they prefer sine waves. And so yeah, if you see a UPS advertised, generally pure sine wave UPSs or pure sine inverters are more expensive. But that said, they're feeding into the equipment what it expects to see from the mains grid.
Yeah.
So with the exception of much less RFI, but
when I get the money, I'll well, it's also, that's the kind of stuff that you never think of spending money on, that stuff, because
you don't think of spending
unsung
it.
hero.
Yeah, you don't think of spending it until the one day where you get a brownout for like 2 seconds and you lose like 6 hours of work because you didn't hit save soon enough, and then you're like,
yeah,
really wish I'd spend the money.
Well, this thing is actually pretty good. The one I've got, it's got about 15 minutes. And I got everything kind of coming out of it is decent.
The one thing I will say about UPS is a lot of people get hung up on the VA, the voltage amp rating on it, which is essentially the amount of time that you're going to get for a given load. Don't get too hung up on that. You don't need a lot of time. Ultimately, and most UPSs these days, one of the big companies in the space is CyberPower. The main thing that you get with these UPSs is they have the capability, even if you get a UPS that only lasts 10, 15 minutes. Mine lasts 90 minutes with the current sort of load setup. Do I ever need to use those 90 minutes? No, because what happens when the UPS gets to the end of its when the battery power is like 5%, it will safely shut down your rig and either hibernate.
Oh, nice.
It'll either hibernate your system for you, in other words, you don't even have to save anything, or you can set it up to just override, save everything. Wow. If you don't happen to be around. In fact, mine, I haven't set this up yet, but it can actually be configured to text me when the power goes out through like an SMS service, which is kind of ridiculous.
I was gonna ask you this a second ago. I turn my whole system off every night, like everything. I power down my monitors. I power down my interface. I power down the PC. Everything at night. I was also leaving it on, and now every once in a while I'd wake up to a blue screen. Because I don't let it reboot from the blue screen, because I like to know when I'm getting the blue screen, not when it just randomly happens.
Yeah.
And I've. Do you power down? I feel as though the electronics like the power down.
You'd be surprised. So I have a story actually related to that. I saw this video this week on there's a fire station somewhere in the States. I forget where it is, but you can look it up probably. It is a light bulb, and that light bulb has been on for over 100 years.
Yes.
And it's still on. And
It's
there's
a
a
fire
lot of
station, I think.
Yeah, well, but so that this particular light bulb, it doesn't need really to be on anymore. It's just literally on, I think, at this point for them to see how many more years this thing can go. And there's a number of factors into that. One, it's running at a lower voltage.
Yep.
So it's not being pushed as hard as like your regular
It's not very
light bulb.
hot. Yeah.
But another factor is it doesn't go through the on-off cycling that normal light bulbs go through, the heat up, cool down, heat up, cool down, heat up, cool down, which is bad. In fact, there are some servers in server farms that are actually on like 24-hour UPSs, because the people operating these systems know that if those servers shut down, they're probably not going to make it through a post sequence if they turn back on. When systems, especially complicated digital systems, when they turn on, they go through. There are circuit executions that take place that don't take place during normal operation. So there is some equipment, for example, these DBXs, they don't like to be turned off. I know that. So they kind of sit here in the rack. They're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because that's how they were designed. Now, I have some tube gear here.
Tubes are a bit different.
Tubes are a little bit different because obviously tubes, they get really, really warm. Fun fact. And on top of that, but at the same time, the filament of tubes, and again, tubes is not a big deal. Tubes are cheap.
Tubes are basically like a light bulb.
Yeah, tubes are a light bulb running, I'd say a little more reliable than a light bulb. I mean, you can get tubes that will last for 40, 50 years, but or more. But I think in the case of tubes, there's something to be said for both. There's something to be said for letting them run, because the problem with tubes, and we don't get a tube tangent now, but the problem with tubes is tubes take time. The T's are everywhere. Tubes take time to warm up and to achieve their optimal quality sound.
Yeah,
so the problem with
absolutely.
tube gear is when you shut it down, come back and you want to use it again. For example, I have a master bus compressor here that's not in the signal chain for this stream or anything, but it stays on all the time because I use it every day. And every time I want to use it, I don't have to go, shit, it's not on. I got to go make a coffee because I got to wait a half an hour.
Is it half an hour?
I wait a half an hour. Some people say, 15 minutes. That's fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
If I don't burn my finger when I touch the top of the tube, I'm like, okay, it's not there yet.
So here's counterpoint. And this is my counterpoint. Actually, Bangs had it perfectly well. Powering on shocks the circuits and causes wear and tear. Leaving the power on causes heat and causes wear and tear.
Either way, I agree with that. Either way, it's going to hurt it somehow. I think some equipment does better to be left on. Some equipment does better to be cycled. For
Everything
example,
I have is solid state. I don't think any of it is going to.
One thing that I think is always good to turn off, for example, is monitors like TVs and computer monitors. Mm-hmm. Really good to turn those off because those flexing those backlight inverters more than they need to be is not the best idea. That said, there are TVs that are designed in commercial situations to be left on 100% of the time.
Yep.
That's not what any of us have. So like my monitor goes off always. My monitor goes off every day. Everything else for the most part stays on.
So what's your power bill like? Because that's the other consideration I have is my computer's a relative beast in consideration
right
for
now,
power draw.
Right now, and I have an amp meter in my rack. So right now, with everything that's running, with the exception of the lighting and stuff that's not audio or IT related, I'm sucking 2.6 amps.
All right.
Which is not really that much.
Is that your computer included?
That's everything. Yeah, computer included.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Computer
So your
included.
computer, how old is it again?
Old.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Old.
the power draw is a little bit.
It's
has gone up.
powerful. I mean, it's sucking most of that. It's sucking, I think, 240 watts. the whole system combined.
Yeah.
That said, that just goes to say the other audio equipment in this rig altogether is less than 100 watts, and that includes tube gear that I'm looking at right now. That includes
Maybe I'm
like-
overthinking it then.
honestly, I mean, if you are, and for certain environmental things, I'm kind of anal about. Power consumption, not so much, because most of our power grid in Ontario is renewable at this point anyway. So I'm not too concerned about emissions or anything like that. That said, I would say before you do that in your area, disclaimer, look up what the makeup is of your power, of the power in your state or in your province.
Yeah.
Because you could be running on 80% coal power, and then you're like, well.
Bang says during the winter it just replaces heating. Kind of true. The
Yep, accurate.
reason,
Very accurate.
the reason I started actually powering down, and this is funny, the middle of the night, I left for work at 4:30 in the morning, and at about 4:45, I get a phone call. Something's making a very ominous sound in the basement. You need to do something about this. I'm like, what the hell is it? And they're like, it's coming from the basement. It's coming from your studio. What is it? And I'm like, I have no freaking clue. Apparently, my wife just went in and unplugged everything. Like, she just pulled plugs that went away. Turned it back on. Apparently, my cat had walked over my board and hit the 48-volt phantom power, which turned my mic on and then started meowing while the speakers were on, and it just started a big force feedback loop.
Fucking cats.
And so all you heard was like force
That's
feedback.
amazing. That's horrifying, but that's amazing. I love that.
Cat basically terrified everyone. Cat on keyboard. Yeah, basically cat on keyboard.
Basically.
Cat on PreSonus AR8. And I was driving to work. I'm like, well, that sounds like your problem.
Yeah, really. That sounds like a not me thing.
Unplug it. But yeah, and I caught the cat doing it again, and the cat would meow into the microphone. And I caught my cat meowing into the microphone. I'm like, so I started muting my speakers, which kind of helped, but then I just screw it. I powered everything down.
Yeah, see, I do have, as far as that's concerned, like if there's any kind of a power spike and there happens to be a little audio blip that jumps through, or some reason a switch fails on my board and causes just metal to start jamming at, fucking 3:30 a.m. I do have sort of a system halt of sorts, like just to idle everything. Like there's a sort of a sleep sequence for stuff. Like all the analog stuff for the most part goes off at night.
Yeah, that's fair.
then first thing I get up in the morning, first thing, even before I shower, first thing I do is to get the tubes and everything all reared up.
Audio Asylum says cat deserves to be put on the Barbie. I'm more of a dog person. I don't know if I'd want to eat
I
a
am
cat.
definitely more of a dog person. I don't want cats because I have expensive things that don't like being stabbed repeatedly.
Interfaces are comfy, warm at night. I gotta say, Arturia makes some of the best space heaters in the audio industry. Like they had the original Audio Fuse, which was the little guy, which I wanted to get because I didn't really need the 18 in 20 out. Like I didn't need that. But I got Arturia to actually give me a discount on this in response to a review. So I'm like, cool. But that little guy would literally hot to the touch. Like your hand would feel uncomfortably warm on it if you had it plugged in. So I'm sitting in a basement. That might have actually done me quite well.
So I will say that too. That reminds me to the point earlier about, when you keep stuff on, there's a heat dissipation issue. Design your system, and this is on you. This is on everybody who does this. This is not on the manufacturer. Design your system, and by that I mean what stuff is sitting on top of which stuff or behind which stuff. To the point where stuff, you should never touch the rack plate, even if I put my hand on my tube compressor here, it's warm.
Yeah.
I'm not burning. The metal's not going to melt. That should be bad, especially one of the first things that generally goes as a result of heat problems is capacitors. And let me tell you, there's a lot of capacitors and stuff. Especially audio stuff.
Yeah, and when they go, they can take other stuff out with them.
Yeah, especially if they're like a filter cap on a power supply that's like a big honking missile just waiting to shoot up into the air.
Yeah.
Those things are bad news bears. In fact, one of the channels on my master bus compressor, I was listening to, I was like, oh, there's all this kind of weird clicking. I don't know what all this clicking is. What is this clicking?
Oh,
And,
yeah, that stuff.
And I was like, yeah, usually clicking is usually an indication of a cap somewhere gone. And sure enough, I open it up and I like doop 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 doop. Let's go through the
usually
schematic.
smell the cap gone.
Well, this cap, I don't, again, because I haven't actually up until recently haven't had this compressor hooked up in line or even turned on in a fairly long time. So it could have been blown for literally like a year and a half. But before finally I plug in, I'm like, wait, what the hell is that now? That's the one downside to not using all of your equipment somewhat consistently on a regular basis is stuff happens and you're like, I don't even know when the hell this happened.
Bang says there are heated litter boxes for the well-heeled cat. Don't ask how I know. I don't think I would buy my cats heated litter boxes. They also like to prefer to go outside. So, other than that, I did have some. You know what? I should have gotten the comments ready to go because some of them have just been fantastic over this past week, and usually comes from stuff like doing reviews of the Neat Mike's Worker Bee.
I was gonna say that U87 thing just drives me bananas.
Yeah, and there have been a few of that. The video coming up this weekend. Now, I am working on the review of the AKG D5, and that's in the works. The one coming up Monday, though, is probably going to be the sponsored video. I think I can say this. It's from Riverside.fm, which if anyone does any kind of podcasting or interviews over distance, and you've run into the problem with bad audio from an interview. And this is the big problem you run into with interviewing people who aren't sound people, because they have no idea they just think opening a laptop and talking on that is good. Riverside actually has a fix for that. And stay tuned for Monday. I can't really say much more than that. But that's coming up Monday at some point on Monday, because it kind of has to mirror when they're doing the launch.
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually this past week, that's really cool. I think that's awesome. I can't wait to see what that's gonna entail for the Aiden Wolf brand.
Bang says this has been getting a lot of crap thrown at it on Reddit. Riverside. You know what? Anything that's a paid platform like Riverside is going to get crap thrown at it.
Of course it will.
Especially with all the free options you have, Skype, all that.
Clean feed.
There's always a premium to be paid for decent audio. And a good example of this is in the podcast space, Anchor. Anchor is one of those things that people seem to live and die for Anchor, but there's so many problems with their platform. And if that's an issue for you, it's an issue for you. If it's not, it's not. It's a personal preference. Riverside, I find, because there are lots of problems and lost content. Ooh. David Jackson dissed it. I can't speak on that, but that's an interesting point. Considering the stuff is all recorded locally, that's an interesting problem they're having. I bet you they had a server go down. So that's an issue. Servers shouldn't be going down, but I'm guessing they're also in a growth phase. So, yeah, I have a sponsored video by them coming up. Oh, man.
Question for the Wolfster.
All right.
What's if you could think, what's on your docket of to-dos? What is the next nerdy purchase?
I just bought a Scarlett Solo Studio Pack.
I didn't necessarily saying gear, but I'm like something that you are buying, whether it's, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be like an expensive piece of gear or anything, but something that's just that you would qualify in your head as nerdy, that you feel maybe slightly embarrassed about purchasing, like for the things that we all do around these places.
Embarrassed? I don't know, man. I don't think so. You've got something. You're waiting. You're just dying to, or something about my purchase history coming.
No.
All right, cool. All right, because you might know.
So
more
I'll give you an
me.
example, and maybe me saying what my next nerdy purchase is going to be
All right.
will prompt you, will give you an idea for what yours is going to be. I'm going to buy a rhino, like not a rhinoceros. I'm going to buy one of those, label makers, like the really killer ones. So here's the problem. I'm sitting here, I'm like, we're talking, and I'm just taking a casual glance over at my board, which is a 20-channel board, and there's lights blinking, and I'm trying to remember what the fuck is that plugged into.
Oh wait, okay. So I don't have a problem. I don't need a label maker in my studio yet.
I'm honestly, I'm at that point now where I'm like, wait, why is that blinking at me? What does that mean? What is connected to channel 18? I have no idea.
Something sending signal.
Yeah, something having a happy.
I don't generally have. I'm trying to think of the last like geeky thing I bought for myself that nerdy. I've been spending a lot of money on crap that's like very studio based. Another one of my buddies, he was like, "Oh, so what? You're buying all the mics now, and you're gonna have all these mics on you?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of the point of the
point.
channel." Yeah, I guess so.
Literally.
I still like my next big purchase for the studio. I think of the lights. Anybody watching can see the two lights behind me. They're they're $20 LED lights from Canadian Tire with pieces of paper strapped over them, and they work great. They work fantastic.
They do the job.
Make sure you will have no issues finding tape for it. I have 3 that discontinued the tape after.
Well,
a
see,
year.
that's why I say
Oh,
Rhino.
that would suck.
That's why I say Rhino, because Rhinos are kind of like industry, like these are heavy duty label makers.
They're industry standards, man.
No, like
label makers
our-
for the label maker people, man.
Our engineers like when it comes with a carrying case
Yeah.
for a label printer, that's probably so these things I have faith that this $400 label maker they will probably continue to make.
$400?
Yeah, I'm confident that they will continue to
You're
pump out.
spending $400 on a label maker?
Not soon, when I get my bonus maybe.
You're gonna spend bonus money on a label maker?
I need it. And it can do multiple colors, bro.
Multiple colors. So is that why you're buying it?
once.
Multiple colors. That's what you're doing.
No, I just want something again as we just highlighted. I want something that again is not going to be some chintzy Canadian Tire special that they're not going to that they're going to discontinue.
I've never had the urge to label things. Like I know you, and I've been into your studio. Everything in your studio has a barcode.
Literally, yeah.
But I've
Well, not everything. I haven't done that recently. I probably no. I don't need to. What am I saying?
hat label maker better make money for your business. Oh, that yeah. You make money on your studio, don't you? Do you make
Yes.
money from your home studio?
Yes, that's the thing. Once something makes a certain amount of money, you can throw money into stupid things that make it more efficient. But that's the thing is if I can save time sitting here counting up from channel 1 to figure out which channel something is on, that's time saved.
See, and I can see something like a label maker for the like a large. Yeah, I can see something
like
that.
a large format
Like
rig.
I've got 4 inputs that are active on this thing, and I also have a digital mixer that I can label whatever I want. So I don't have that issue. The Audio Asylum says 400 on a label maker. You are a maroon.
Yep. I didn't deny it. Actually, sorry. No, I don't. I exaggerate. The one I was looking at was only 160.
Oh, that's not bad.
Rhino.
Still a lot for a label maker.
Rhino does make, but those are actually full-fledged label printers. Like those are like USB, like thermo printing devices that you connect to your computer. Even those though, you can get cheap versions. Like Brother makes one that's like $80. Like.
Oh yeah. I gotta say, like with my studio making revenue, most of my revenue is based on YouTube and Amazon Associates, which is decent, but I'm cycling all that money back into stuff I can review because that's what the channel does. Like if I do anything other than a review, like if I try to tell you how to do thumbnails, that stuff just falls.
You were still so
flat.
salty about that.
Well, somebody requested it. Anyways, so it's basically now I just cycle the money. I might as well. And if I ever have to do a review of a label maker,
okay,
maybe.
I would never review it. It's just one of the there are certain things. So a good example of this is a non-glamorous studio purchase is Velcro cable ties.
Oh, I bought some a couple months ago. They're so good.
Nobody wants to buy Velcro cable ties. Nobody wants to go and post on Facebook like, "Yo, check my shit. I got the bling, yo." Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. But there are things with any business. There are things you have to buy, whether it's packages of paper, whether it's a label maker, whether it's a box of staples. You have to.
Well, and that's fascinating. Now, Bang said tax write-offs. I get to write off all of the mics I buy.
Yep. I get to write off pretty much everything that I purchase because very seldom do I spend on something that is not for the business.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? Like all of the free money to this just goes back into the business. So
Yep.
I'm going to find out in a couple of weeks how tax is going to be going for that. But yeah, it's fascinating. I've spent so much on the little things like the cable ties. I've got to start getting more XLR cables. I've got.
I ordered a Behringer cable tester. Another example of a nerdy, non-glamorous studio purchase.
Behringer cable tester.
So basically, you can test, like it's got lights and stuff on it. So when you can plug in RCA cables,
Yeah.
XLR cables, TS, TRS, Ethernet cables, speak-on cables.
Oh,
like
it tests
every type of-
Ethernets. So
yeah, so you can do 8 pins.
Ethernets. Wow.
Ethernets.
Ethernets.
Heath Ledger nets.
Does Behringer actually do that well? Because I mean,
Well, it's $30. It's $30. So if it doesn't,
send me the link on that. I actually want to pick that up.
The other thing that I like about this cable tester is it comes with an end cap, so you can actually test so obviously it's a little box with cable ends on it,
Yeah.
but you can actually test cables that have been installed. So you can put this little end cap on one end of it, and then bring the tester to the other end of it, and you can actually test it to see if there are any faults in the cable along the line without actually having to plug both ends into the box, which I think is really cool. Especially around here where I've got some pretty substantial cable runs going between some of the rooms that I don't want to pull through the bloody wall.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Cable ties stop the cats from climbing on gear, especially if you use several on each cat.
Especially if you wrap the cable. Yeah, there we go. You beat me to it. I was going to say,
Yeah.
especially if you use
Well,
it on
I mean,
cats.
that's the same with duct tape. Duct tape will actually stop your cats from doing everything if you just wrap them tight enough. So
You know what makes me laugh? I'm going to go on a rant about duct tape. You know what makes me laugh is remember I had this happen in elementary school and beyond where people would make fun of be like people always say duct tape. It's actually duct tape.
oh, God.
And then you get older and you actually talk to like an HVAC specialist and they're like, have you ever actually tried to use duct tape on a duct?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
No. And they're like, it's garbage.
Yeah.
They're not for ducts. It's called duct tape because of the moisture sort of resistance that it
Yes.
has. But it's like there's this rumor going around for the longest time that it's like, oh, it's actually duct tape. Like people pronounce it duct. It's stupid. It's like, no, you're stupid.
I mean, that okay. But I mean, teach their own. People have also gotten words into the English dictionary that make no sense as well.
True.
Irregardless, it's in the English dictionary. Come on.
Yeah, it's true. So is Google is a verb. It's true story. True story. But I think I don't have a problem with people deciding new names for stuff. I have a problem with people being a dick about it.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
being like, yo, you guys pronounce it like this. Like, it's so stupid. Like, it's actually this.
NASA
It's like,
calls
well,
it gray tape. I like that. That it's actually gray
yeah,
tape.
gray
and that's
tape.
probably the
Yeah.
best thing for it.
I used to call it cotton tape because it's just cotton's sort of fibers in whatever that.
I
rubbery
used
stuff is.
it actually on a duct. I had to open up a duct so I could put it in a dishwasher because all the ducts were kind of crisscrossing right where the dishwasher was going in.
Oh,
So I had
God,
to
yeah.
cut one of them open and use duct tape on it. That's the only time.
How
in
long
my
ago?
life. It was about 3 months ago.
Oh,
Why?
okay. I was gonna say wait like 2 years and then try to see if you can peel the tape off without it coming off as like dust.
Oh, does it actually fall apart?
Yeah, that's why it does not deal with the heat cold thing very well.
Oh,
That's why duct tape is so shitty. On
Well, I was
ducts.
going to use super glue, but yeah, I mean,
If you have some of that epoxy, that newfangled epoxy stuff there,
yeah.
epoxy.
Red green joke inserted here. Yes. He was
Yes.
Canadian, wasn't
Maybe
Yeah.
it certainly wouldn't surprise me.
he? Hint of Shrimp just got a new monitor. Y'all have never looked better. I would return your monitor if we look better.
Something is not working.
Yeah, something. The
Something
colors
is
are not
malfunctioning.
on. Anyways, happy Good Friday. Happy Easter to everybody, whatever you're celebrating, whether it's the day off, which I'm celebrating, or just, I don't know, whatever you're doing. Cheers. Thanks for joining us. Watch for that video coming Monday. Not going to be at the usual time, but there will be one on Monday, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.